very good.
You were out late last night at the Spirit of NI Awards.
I was. It was absolutely an amazing occasion to celebrate what is so good about our place that we call home, and so many people doing good things unnoticed, the unsung heroes. So it was really a great evening of celebration, and it was really good to be part of it.
And it's great to have you here today as well, Michelle. The last time we talked was at Féin Phobal in West Belfast, and at that stage last August the Assembly was still down. Things looked still quite, entrenched in terms of whether there'd be movement. And when we chatted then, you said, I think it'll come back. And it seemed like hope over experience.
That's true. But I also told you that time I wouldn't give up. And look where we are today, 4 months in to the newly established executive, and I'm absolutely delighted that we got to that point, because it's still commented to me day and daily, actually, just the significance of that moment. Something that was, once thought impossible, something that was never supposed to happen in the way of the way this island was partitioned, the northern state built in such a way that someone from a nationalist background, a Republican woman at that, would ever be First Minister was unthinkable to many generations before us, to my parents, to my grandparents. So the fact that we have achieved that now speaks volumes in terms of the change that's happening across the island, and speaks volumes in terms of... Thank you.
And I think people were really intrigued as well by your relationship with the Deputy First Minister, Emma Little-Pengelly. From the get-go, there seemed to be this determination, but also a goodwill between the two of you to make this work. Is that the optics, or is it happening?
No, it's actually real. It is very real. I mean, I think Emma and I, there's no secret that we come from two very completely different backgrounds. We have two very different lived experiences. We have two very, very different outlooks as to where we should be in the future, particularly in terms of the constitutional question. But we've got common ground as well, and the common ground is prosperity for everybody and trying to lift people up. And I think that we both reflected on our acceptance speeches that difference, and the fact that nobody should be asked to surrender who they are. I am who I am, a Republican woman from Tyrone. Emma herself with a very different outlook. And I'm not asking her to surrender how she is, and likewise the same for myself. But is not the epitome of this place, is not the epitome of the Good Friday Agreement. Let's be respectful of each other and our journey and our outlook and our lived experience, because Emma's world is very different to mine in terms of our teenage years, what we experienced. But I find myself constantly on platforms where we're chatting among ourselves on formats like this, and like in one conversation we talked about my father's an ex-prisoner, Emma's father's an ex-prisoner.
Yeah.
But that shows just the journey that we're on, and now look at us, First and Deputy First Minister in a new executive. And again, I just think that's how it should be. That's, we should find our common ground, and I think our common ground is around trying to build our community. And I think that point's very important in terms of this place, because we always talk about two communities. That's not the reality of life anymore, folks. We have people from a nationalist perspective, people from a unionist perspective, people who've made here their home. 10% of our population comes from the black and ethnic minority community. So let's start to talk about our community, the one community that we all live in.
And as we can hear, people do respond to that and really are on board for that, I think, and it gives confidence. So apart from getting the mammoth task of actually getting the Assembly up and running, is there anything else over the past very short months that has really pleased you about, getting this going?
I think we've set the right tone from very early on around that respectful relationship that we need to have with each other. Whether you're in the political sphere or just in society in general, I think we need to create more space to be and have the approach of being respectful of each other and our own perspective, our own difference, and that's okay. So I think the tone has been very important, because that is what people look for. They look for political leaders to set the stage. So I'm very pleased about that. I think over the course of the first 4 months, ultimately, politics is about delivering for people, so I think that's also crucially important, and I'm glad that we have, in that short period of time, been able to demonstrate that we can deliver for people. We have a lot of work to do, we have a lot of catching up to do. We We know that we have a health service that needs major transformation. We know that we need to invest more in special educational needs and supporting children with additional needs. So there is so much that we need to do, but I actually believe there's a real collective will there in which to do so. And we've made some progress in these early days, particularly around childcare, something that I want to be a legacy of this executive, that we have actually done something to make a difference to people's lives, because childcare is one of those things that's really hurting a lot of families right now, a real challenge for families. So yeah, I think those early wins are important, but we certainly have a lot more to do.
And I think people really respond to that too and are realistic about it. But there must also be challenges and there must be frustrations too, and we've heard a little bit of that.
Yeah, I think there's probably two main challenges I think that face us. Firstly, just the special and unique system of governance that we have here by virtue of our peace agreement, and four parties working in coalition is always going to be a challenge. People
Sure.
with the different outlooks and different perhaps approaches to things. So trying to manage that four-party coalition is always going to be a challenge. But I think the collective challenge that we all have, all of us that have entered the executive, is the fact that this place isn't funded according to need, is the fact that for 14 years now the Tories have stripped out our public services. For 14 years now they have starved our health service of much needed funding. And for 14 years, Westminster, as it has done in the years previous to that, have demonstrated that they never will serve the interests of the people here, and that's why we're better taking control of our own fortunes.
I suppose on the upside, one of the strands of the Good Friday Agreement that had been neglected was the North-South Ministerial Council for quite a long time, but it's up and running in this short period of time as well. And even with the changing faces in both governments and whatever, yourself and Emma nearly will be the constant that's there. What do you see as the value of that strand?
Well, it's a crucial element. I mean, all three strands are obviously important, but I mean, we can do so much in terms of North-South cooperation. You know, we talk about our health service and the need to transform that. That should be done across the island. I mean, that's something I think that we should continue to work through together. But all the areas of North-South cooperation are crucially important, and because that hasn't been happening for a number of years with the institutions being down, we have a real opportunity now to actually grasp that again and actually to further enhance the areas of North-South cooperation. You only have to look to some of the major infrastructure projects that have been advanced. Narrow-water bridge in recent times, the investment in the A5 road that must be built and must be built urgently. I mean, the conversation this week around Casement Park and, you know, Casement Park's role as part of the Euros. Now, it's absolutely my preference that it is built as part of Casement Park, but in case there's any doubt out there, Casement Park will be built on my watch. I'm absolutely 100% about that. So I think it's those practical areas that make a difference, and we need to do more of that. And I think real practical things, Lough Neagh, one of the biggest ecological disasters of our time. This is another area where there's North-South cooperation, sharing of research and innovation, and I think those things, they're practical things that can make a difference, and we just need to be do a lot more of that.
And some of that's, I suppose, in the background that we don't hear about that. We hear about the problems far quicker than we hear about the cooperation and the strong work that's going on as well.
Yeah, I think that's just the nature of this place, isn't it? We like the negativity instead of the positivity, whenever there's far more out there that, you know, is really good about this place.
I think that's true. Related to that and the Good Friday Agreement infrastructure, so as the First Minister, you have responsibility for making Strand 1 of the Good Friday Agreement work. You're also the Vice President of Sinn Féin and are actively working toward the conditions for a border poll. Do you see a contradiction in that one pushes against the other?
None whatsoever. I think we can do both things at once. I don't think there's any contradiction there, because if you believe in the Good Friday Agreement, then you believe in power sharing. You believe in working together with the other parties, and that's certainly what I do believe in. But I think we can do that whilst also advocating constitutional change. I mean, Em and I, as in the executive, have to lead that executive, but we can do that every day whilst also pursuing our equally legitimate political aspirations. Em is obviously wanting to be part of the union, me wanting to see constitutional change and uniting the people of this island. I actually think it's probably imperative, actually, that we continue to do power sharing whilst we have the type of conversation that we're having today. So let's have the confidence to do both things at the same time.
I think so. And we're sitting here in the middle of a Westminster election. It's very, very fluid. I think most of us agree that anything could happen in the next few weeks. For you, kind of trying to build this new assembly and confidence in all of this infrastructure, is there something that you particularly want us to think about as we consider, the border pull, Ireland's future pathway to change within all of that flux that's happening at the minute?
Yeah, so you're right, there is a lot of flux happening, but I think we need to be an exemplar today for what we want tomorrow. And I think the institutions themselves give us an opportunity to do that. This week I met all of the Sinn Féin mayors and chairs that have taken up their posts in councils, and my message to that team was, you need to reflect that in your council chamber, in your work as a representative of all the people of the council areas that you're in, because we have to be an exemplar. We have to show people that there is something better for them all out there, that we are trying to build an island that is inclusive, that has equality at the core, that is for everybody, that there's a place for us all, that the prize here is something better. And I absolutely think that that's the conversation that we need to have, but we have to be what we want to achieve. So I think that's about being confident in our own skin. It's about being generous. It's about listening. It's about hearing people who have concerns. It's about pointing out the opportunities that we can have. This can be a very exciting, I think, journey ahead of us. But I think those of us that are already convinced of the merits of unity need to continue to make that case, and also be generous in terms of our actions, in terms of what we're trying to achieve.
First Minister, thank you so much for everything, and
thank you.
We wish you very well in the work ahead.
Thank you very much.